欢迎您来到 Dig Mandarin. Welcome to the Dig Mandarin YouTube channel. I'm your host, Lorelai, and in today's lesson, we're going to focus on 7 significant differences between Chinese and English. Your native language is the base of how you think about a foreign one. A lot of Chinese learners, like yourself, are speakers of English, whether that's native or as a second language. As learners, we need to be aware of the significant differences so we know how to sound more authentic and natural when we speak Chinese. So, how does Chinese compare to English? 第一个. The most apparent difference is, without a doubt, the written appearance of the language. Chinese uses characters which cannot be sounded out, while words in English use the alphabet, which allows the speaker to sound out the word letter by letter, making it a phonetic language. Luckily for Chinese language learners, pinyin helps provide a phonetic component for Chinese characters. Pinyin uses romanized letters like the alphabet, but the sound associated with each is unique to pinyin for that letter. While this may seem like a huge disadvantage, there is another aspect that must be considered. Chinese characters are, in some ways, like a picture. There are elements that hold meaning. So while you can't sound out the character, you can pull meaning from the character. Here's a great example. The character here is mu. It means eye. Seen here is shui, and this means water. This shui character has a radical that looks like 3 little dots that are seen here. When you put that 3-dot radical before mu, can you guess what the translation is? So it's tears, the water from your eye. So you don't even know how to pronounce the character, but you know the meaning. Please note that some character components do have sounds attached to them. After getting really comfortable with Chinese, you may be able to guess the sound of a character based on the components, but this is not a foolproof way of reading Chinese. 第二个. In the last section, we talked about pinyin, and you've probably seen pinyin before. You might have noticed little lines above a few of the letters. Those are tones, and there are 4 basic tones in Chinese, seen here. Tones are a very unique concept for most English speakers. We need to pay attention to them both when we're speaking and listening. If you pronounce the same syllable with a different tone, the corresponding meaning can be vastly different. In English, intonation indicates emotion, but in Chinese, intonation indicates meaning. Here's an example of tones and definition differences. If we look at the word in the pinyin for 睡觉, here. If we say 睡觉, both with 4th tones, that means to sleep. But if we say 水饺, both with 3rd tones, that means dumpling. And another example we have if you say 我可以吻你吗? Or if we say 我可以吻你吗? One of them means, can I ask you a question? The other one means, can I kiss you? 第三个. Get the meaning, forget the words. This is a saying that sums up the differences in length between English and Chinese sentences. English grammar is arguably more difficult. Chinese is very concise. A lot of English speakers may find themselves making run-on sentences in their daily life. Chinese can have a very long sentence, but the sentences are divided into short phrases separated by commas. Let's look at an example. You can see here that the English sentence goes on without as many commas. But for Chinese, they have short sections that have the information in those sections. So it's not as fluid or as much of a run-on sentence like we're used to in English. 第四个. In English, the passive voice is very commonly used. Chinese usually uses the active voice. The passive voice indicates something to be done by someone or something, while the active voice shows that the subject takes the initiative to do something. Keeping that in mind, the parts of speech within a sentence are arranged differently in Chinese than in English. Let's look at the following example. Here we have 世界各地人们都喝茶. In English, we would say tea is drunk widely all over the world, or tea is drunk all over the world. Here's the subject is tea, not people. Tea is being drunk in this version. But in Chinese, they don't say 茶被人们喝. A more proper way would be 人们喝茶. People are drinking the tea. Here are some typically common used expressions in both English and Chinese. 第五个. In Chinese, idioms are short, 4-character phrases, widely used to make expressions more vivid, alive, and compact. English idioms don't hold the same cultural meaning that Chinese idioms do. English idioms tend to be more specific and direct. Let's look at this example of an idiom. 一石二鸟，一箭双雕，一举两得. This idiom, while not 4 characters, has the meaning of 2 birds, 1 stone that we have in English. Now let's look at some other common 4-character idioms used in the Chinese language. And now on to 第六个. Chinese uses concrete nouns, while English has a tendency to use more abstract terms and thoughts. There are numerous examples of how this looks and Chinese literal meaning compared to English, but let's look at a few examples. Feeding on your fancies in English even sounds a little abstract when we hear it in English. The Chinese version is 画饼充饥. And the literal meaning of this is to allay one's hunger using a picture of a cake. Another example you might see is, in English it would be lack of perseverance. The Chinese example would be 三天打鱼两天晒网. The literal meaning here is spend 3 days fishing and 2 days drying your nets. 第七个. English puts more emphasis on the first part of the sentence, while the Chinese language focuses on the last part of the sentence. This is especially apparent in sentences that include logic by drawing conclusion. In English, the conclusion is described first, and the facts are described at the end of the sentence. I was delighted when the agreement succeeded as a result of my proposal. This English example shows that I was delighted as the concluding part. We see it in the first. Then we see the details why, because the agreement succeeded as a result of my proposal. We see 让我感到特别高兴. This made me happy. But we see what made this person happy at the beginning of the sentence. So we see the flip in the Chinese to English grammar. And that's it. Those are the 7 major differences between Chinese and English. Can you think of any others? Make sure to comment below. I hope this video was helpful to you and shed some light and knowledge about the Chinese language and made your language journey even easier. Thank you again for choosing Dig Mandarin as your language learning companion. Let us know if there's any other topics that you'd like to see us cover. Make sure to like and subscribe to get more content like this as well. See you again next time. 再见.